Hey, Grow Squad. Hope you're doing good. How have you been for the past 7 days? Hope you've been doing well. Hope the life has been treating you kindly. I am your boy, Eugene Hamilton, and I'm so glad to have this conversation with you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your time. I know oftentimes people take it for granted. We think that people have all the time in the world to tune into their stuff, and people are always vying for attention. I get it. I hope you know that I'm very much appreciative of your time. Thank you for making the effort to tune in today, and I promise you will not be disappointed. So go ahead and like, subscribe, go ahead and share. In fact, we know full well that as you continue to let people know what's happening here, our channel, our platform grows, more people are impacted, and more lives are blessed because not of me, but because of you and your influence. So thank you again for tuning in today. Let's pray and let's get started. God, we thank you for another day. Bless us, give us what we need. In your name, amen. Today, last week it was pretty hot, right? And along those same lines, I want to talk more though today about triggers, right? If you tuned in last week, if you haven't, the full episode is available right now. Go back before you listen to this one because that's it. That pretty much is the foundation for where we are today. Today, I want to talk a bit about triggers. As a 45-year-old man, oh man, this is crazy for me to even let you know, let you a little bit in on some things that are happening in my life for the very first time in my life. I've entered therapy. Yeah, go ahead and clap for your boy. I really appreciate it. I thank you for the support. I can hear your support already. Listen, I found a therapist, and man, life has been getting better from the first session. Now you may ask, what's the reason for me entering therapy? Did something traumatic happen? Did something grandiose happen? Did something pull you out of? No. You see, I've got a 4-year-old son, and if you don't know, I'll let you know again. I was born to a single mother. And I thank God every single day that I've got an amazing, he's not my stepfather on paper maybe, but in real life, it's my dad. But at 3 years old, he married my mom. He came into my life. And something has happened as I'm thinking about just the way things have changed from the time that I was 3. Here's where I'm going. And I've now got a 4-year-old. And some of the things that I am trying to instill in my son, yes, I'm grabbing from my childhood. Yes, I'm grabbing from my experience. Absolutely, I'm leaning on the foundation. And then there's some things I say to myself, I need to do differently. There are some things that I find myself being upset about that. The only reason I'm upset about, the only reason I believe that they are wrong is because I was parented that way. It makes sense? There's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong with that. Our parents gave the best that they could. I'm going to give the best that I can to my son. But sometimes, as I said over and over again, I've got to check myself and ask myself, where'd you get that from? Why is that triggering you? Why are you so out of sorts with that? It's funny because just the other day, in fact, last week, we were able, my wife and I, my family, were able to fly down and visit with my immediate family, my immediate extended family, I guess, is my mother, my sisters. We had an awesome time together, just fellowshipping, eating, more eating, right? And just kind of catching up on life. And we were in the airport, and my wife has a bit more patience than I do, right? In fact, my mother, my son's grandmother, had bought him a remote control car, and he's in the airport. We delayed because of weather. And so, of course, everybody's antsy. Of course, my son can't sit still. And so he begins to play with pulls his remote control car out of his bag, and he begins to play with that bad boy right there in the airport. Now, at first thought, that's pretty dangerous. People are walking up and down the hallways. They're walking up and down the corridor, and you got this little bitty race car that somebody can trip over and be seriously injured from, right? My first thought. Like, oh, no, no, no. Put that up because somebody can be injured. And so I decided to say, I said to myself, as he's about to play with this toy, again, thank God for therapy, man. Because initially I would have just lashed out and just been, and my wife looks at me and she says, it's eating you up, huh? I said, what's eating me up? Ain't nothing wrong with me. She said, oh, the fact that he liked to play with that car, that's eating you up, right? But I had to be honest. If you listen to last week's episode, you know I talked heavily about emotional awareness. I said, yeah, it is, but let me take a deep breath and count to 4. Right? And I did so. I took a deep breath. I counted to 4 like Daniel Tiger, and I said, son, just play with the car over here. See, when I was growing up, it's put the car up, right? I said, son, just don't play with the car over on this side because people may get injured. You don't want your car. And in fact, I came from the angle of not even people being injured. For his understanding, I said, oh, no, you didn't want people to damage your car, right? He's a bit older, right? He can understand people being injured, but he's 4. So he doesn't really comprehend what could happen to someone's ankle or knee if they step on his little Lightning McQueen car. So I said, so that your car doesn't get smashed and damaged, son, would you play over here? And to much to my amazement, I mean, and it's blowing my mind how my son is picking up on my level of, or my ability to speak in a calm voice, my ability to speak in a way that, because my voice is already heavy, I don't have to do much yelling, right? But even the way I come at him, I try to make sure I govern myself in a way that is reflective of how I would like to be received, and so I'm not triggered by the same thing that caused me to want to do the opposite of what I was told to do. Again, what we have, we give out. All right? And I'm trying my best. In fact, my son he's such a loving kid, man. I mean, he likes to touch, he likes to hug, he likes to kiss, he likes to just be all upon you. And I think that's foreign to me. I didn't grow up that way, right? Again, not that one way is right or wrong. I just didn't grow up that way, right? And so that is stretching me. And one of the things as I'm walking through this journey in therapy, trying to figure out why am I not so much creeped out, but why don't I just readily receive what he's giving me, is because it wasn't readily. Now again, it wasn't readily. I didn't grow up in that kind of household, right? Love was in the air constantly, but it wasn't always on display. We knew that we were loved every single moment of the day of our lives, but it wasn't always on up for you to see it, right? So as my son is playing with this car, he hits this lady's foot. The car is going under the chairs as we're sitting in the waiting area, waiting for the green light to begin the boarding process. And immediately I want to be very stern and end his fun. Right? That's my first recourse. And one of the things that's interesting, because I think to myself, I'm a creative. Right? And in parenting, your creative juices are always being tested. Right? So the easy way out is put the toy away. We're done with that. That's the easy way out. For me, in my opinion. Cut and dry. Sit down, be quiet, put the car up, nothing else. But can I meet him halfway? I'm thinking to myself, can I meet him halfway? Do I have the bandwidth? Do I have the capacity? Do I have the flexibility to meet him halfway? So he hits this lady's foot. My reaction was I'm emotionally aware. I felt like saying, put the toy up, put the remote control up. That's why I didn't want you to play with it in the first place. But this woman's response, oh my goodness. She says, oh, sweet little boy, I heard your parents saying your name. Hey, Justin, come here. He said, oh, I'm sorry. He apologized to her profusely. I'm so sorry for hitting your foot, ma'am. And she says, wow, you all are doing an amazing job with him. He's such a mannerable young man. He's 4. He's doing what 4-year-olds should do. He's exploring. I don't care if he hits my foot 20 more times. Let him play. That doesn't hurt me. My toe isn't broken. My shoe isn't damaged. I know he's not meaning to hit my foot. He may find humor in it after a certain point, but let him play. You see, at some point in life, in order for us to respond appropriately to our triggers, we've got to do our best to try and understand our triggers. In order for us to appropriately assess why we are triggered by certain things, we've got to be willing to sit back and try our best to understand. Listen, I've probably, my son's 4. He's a COVID baby. When I say COVID baby, he's born during the pandemic. I've probably spent more time with him in his life than my dad was able to spend with me from age 3 until I left home at 17. Right? I'm talking about meaningful time. I mean, due to work responsibilities and the understanding of roles and responsibilities, all that stuff has evolved over time. And so I understand it. I spent more time because of the pandemic. I wasn't on the road working. I'm working virtually. I'll get on the computer for an hour. I'm back with him for 4 or 5 hours. I mean, I've spent more intentional or more intimate time with him in 4 years that I believe my dad spent with me from age 3 to 17. So now I have a different kind of opportunity. I have a different opportunity with my son in so much as I'm able now to, first of all, slow it down, learn him, and the scariest part of the journey is allow him to learn me. You see, one of the things that happens in understanding triggers is that, hey, listen, number one, triggers are a part of life, right? We all have, even right now, we have before and after, before the pandemic, after the pandemic, before this hurt, now after the hurt, before this experience, and now we have life after the experience, before this milestone, now we have life after the milestone. We all have experiences in life that are most of the time put into categories based on before and after a certain event. And so before my son was born, I spent an awful lot of time reflecting on the fact that my biological father was not around, right? In fact, for much of my childhood, in reflecting on the fact that he wasn't around, and for whatever reason, right? I'm unable to ask questions now as to why, because he's no longer with us, right? But I used to spend time thinking to myself, man, am I not worth it? Right? You begin to base your worth on people's decision whether or not to embrace you, right? Whether or not, of course, there was things that, he showed up to fine, but in terms of the ins and outs of life, right? In terms of different, and no, people say all the time, man, but you had, and I had an awesome father, right? Who stepped in and did exactly what he could do for me. But I'm just sharing with you my truth as I'm walking this journey through therapy. A lot of my ability to move forward hinged on the fact that I hung my hat on my worth was connected to my biological father's decision not to be a present force in my life. So now I have my son, right? And I have made a conscious decision, right? Of course, thank God, right, that we have a happy family, that we are loving, we enjoy each other. And the icing on the cake is I have an opportunity to lead my son in a way that I was not led. Man. And so even as you look at triggers, even as you look at events in your life, one of the things that is refreshing is that all of us have the ability to, now it takes time. Of course, we're still working through some things and we'll be working on some things for a while. But the ability to flip situations over on their head and look at what I can pull from that situation that has blessed my life instead of looking at the situation as a curse on my life. Now, do I wish things were different? If I could go back, would I change certain things? If I could, I probably would, but I can't. Using poor English, I can't, so I ain't. Right? I've made a decision now to move forward. Now that I understand my triggers, now that I understand what motivates me to react or reflect a certain way, it's now my responsibility to do what I can to give my son and my family the very best experience that I could possibly give them. One of the things I was invited to do at the end of a session with my therapist, there was a significant event in my life that took place, and I'll get into it later on. I won't get into it today. That really crushed me. Right? And I was invited to look back on that incident, that situation that crushed me at age 19. And now as a 45-year-old man, I was invited to write a letter to 19-year-old Eugene and tell 19-year-old Eugene at 45, here is what has happened up until this point, right? Since that particular crushing moment. And man, that thing, at first I was like, I ain't doing that. Right? I ain't said it out loud, but I said it to myself. I'm not doing that. That's going to bring up all kinds of emotions, and I'm not doing it. Right? Again, talking to myself. But I did it. And in doing that, man, oh man, did I put myself on Front Street? Did I put myself in a position where, oh, here's why I did that. This is what brought me to this decision. Oh, okay, because, oh, wow. And I began to connect the dots in my life. Again, I can't expect someone else to understand me if I don't do my best to understand my own complexities. I can't expect for someone else to, oh, just take me as I am. And I haven't taken myself as I am. And I haven't taken an opportunity and chance to unpack who I really am. So what I want you to do, what I'm going to invite you to do, and this is just an opportunity for us to use our triggers as ammunition or as fuel. And when I say ammunition as fuel, I'm not saying use our triggers to get back at people. I'm saying use your triggers as fuel and ammunition to get yourself in a position, to get yourself in a particular state of mind where you use what you've learned from those experiences. You use what you've learned from those instances. You've used what you've learned and what you've gained. So many times we just hang on to the fact that, hey, we lost so much. We lost. Okay, I get it. That's our reality. But at some point, I got to turn the corner and say, hey, I lost, but what did I gain? I grew up fast, right? I got to a place faster than most. And so I gain momentum sometimes in life. Reassess your triggers this week. And if you've got this is free for y'all. I had to pay for this, right? In terms of if I've got to get to a place where, like my therapist, I begin to write down or write a letter to my old self, write a letter to that young man, that young woman, write a letter to that old person to get it out. Do what you've got to do to propel yourself forward and let the rest take care of itself. So I hope I said something today. I mean, this was kind of an opportunity for me, not just to vent, but kind of just get some things out there, right? And if I was too much, hey, we family now, right? So I hope that you've learned, that you've gained some insight on something today, and I hope that what I shared with you today will be helpful in your own journey as we all seek to go, as we all seek to grow, as we all seek to glow every single day. Until next time, take care of yourself. See you next week. Peace.